Let me explain how this works. Okay, so the way your brain works is when it's under pressure, right? Somebody cuts you off, the barista gets your name wrong, or they get the order wrong. Your boss says, hey, can you come in and meet me at 5 p.m. on Friday? Talk about, what is that? We call that everybody's favorite word, say it with me. It's called a trigger, right? And here's the thing, people think triggers are good or bad, but I'm here to tell you they're neither. They just exist. It's part of being in life. We're going to get triggered every single day. Let me explain. If you're tight on funds and an unexpected bill comes in, what happens? You get triggered, right? You start going into fear and scarcity and all these other things. But you're triggered. If you're Jeff Bezos and that unexpected bill comes in, what happens? Pay it. Who cares? Does not matter. Does not affect him one little iota, because it's not about the bill. It's not about your spouse. It's not about the kids. It's not about your boss. It's not about the company. It's not about the system. It's not about the president. It's not about any of these things, because they're just triggers. They're not good or bad. They just exist. What is good or bad is what the brain does with that information. When we are triggered, the brain has a shortcut. It says, what is the most familiar thing to this that we've run the most often so we can get a predictable outcome? Because it's saying, danger, danger, Will Robinson, small and big doesn't matter. It's like we have to act. And it doesn't go and look for the program that is based on, oh, I've read 36 books on this, and my pappy used to say this, and I processed this in my bed at night thousands of times before. It doesn't go, oh, okay. It says, no, what's the program in real time that we've run the most, and we've run the most recently? It grabs it in a millisecond, and once it fires and gets into that program, it's on autopilot. You're no longer present. You're in the past and you're running a program, and that program always will lead to a what? A result, right? And that result could be good or bad, but if it's bad, guess what it does? It triggers us again, right? And then it starts the cycle over and over. And the more it repeats, the more it gets cemented in. And we call that being on autopilot. This is the autopilot system that our brain does, because our brain is literally designed to reserve as much energy as possible. If it had to think through every decision every single day, we would be exhausted before breakfast, right? So that's why they say 90-95% of our brain is on autopilot. I'll give you an example. Here's one that I experienced this morning. Maybe you did too. I had to pee. So what do we call that? That urge to pee. It's a trigger. And then what do? We get up, we walk across the room. We could be at a Starbucks, we could be at an office, we could be at our in-laws, we could be at home. We'll walk, we'll find a bathroom, no matter where we are, public park, and then we'll relieve ourselves, right? That's the program. And then what happens? What's the result? The result is relief. Good. We're done with that, right? But it wasn't always that easy. Do you know you have 8 different systems that must work in harmony with 170 different muscles for you to get up, walk across a room, and relieve yourself without having an accident, while constantly micro-correcting and having thousands and thousands of neural synapses judging and guiding you along the way? Whew. Exhausting, right? But it's not. We get up, we just go. We don't think about it. But we did when we were little. When we were a little itty-bitty kid, we had to go through a process called potty training. And during that process, we learned when and when not to pee, how to hold our bladder, how to find a restroom, all those things. And once we got good at it, we started to repeat it, and we've repeated it tens of thousands of times. So much so that when you go to the bathroom, you don't think about it. It just happens. Easy peasy, right? At the same time, as a child, you were learning how to potty train. You were also learning how to deal with more complex situations, like, how do I deal with conflict? How do I deal with, do I belong? Or self-worth? And as a small child, you were processing these very complex emotional things that had multiple inputs, multiple neurons firing the entire time. And you came up with a program, and then you started to repeat it. If I hear this tone, I do this. If I hear this word, I do this. If I get this sense, I do this. And you repeated it over and over and over. And so as an adult, when you are reacting in a way you're not proud of, it's because you're not reacting as an adult. You're reacting as a child, the child version of you. It's crazy, right? That's why you're throwing a temper tantrum. That's why you have that same fight with your spouse over and over and over, because your program and her program are triggering each other, and they're just firing. And in the middle of it, you're like, what are we even fighting about? And you don't know, but it still escalates, and you get louder and you get madder, right? And then what happens 5 minutes after the fight, when you both walked away to your separate corners and you're starting to calm down? You start to have regret. You start to wish you didn't say those things. You start to process and say, what am I going to do differently? Now, will it affect the outcome next time? No. But what that state is you coming back to being an adult. So when you're not under pressure, when the bulls are not running, you can actually access the information. You can plan for the future. It's like going on a sales call, right? You can plan out the perfect presentation. You walk in the room, somebody says something, does something, and all of a sudden you can feel your heart racing, your hands start to shake, you lose train of your thoughts. You've repeated this over and over and over in your bedroom or in your own boardroom, and yet you get there and the bulls are running, and you're no longer this adult who's done all this practice. You are again that child who's looking to figure out, oh, they're going to figure me out. Or do they really want it? Or what happens if they don't like what I have to say? All those things come rushing in. So what my program does, very simple. I can't affect triggers, right? Triggers happen everywhere. People who say, oh, boundaries, you have to put up boundaries. Boundaries are great, sure, but they don't solve the problem, because the problem is never the thing. It's not your mom. It's not the person at work. It is it's your brain. It's your old programs. So we can't affect that. And once you get from trigger to program, what happens? You're on autopilot. Game over. It's going to lead to the same result. It's going to cement it more. So what we do is we actually go right here and we interrupt. In this space between trigger and program firing, we go in, and I have a specific system, and you'll learn this over the 30 days, where it not only makes you become hyper aware of what your triggers are, but it actually will interrupt the program and intercept it before the program fires. And what that does is it creates like 2 to 3 seconds of a pause so that you can choose, do I want to keep responding like I always have? Here's a hint, you don't, because that one leads you to feeling burned out, right? Exhausted, or feeling stuck, like, oh, nothing's ever going to change. Or like most of my clients, feeling like an imposter. See how all these connect? Self-worth, imposters, stuck. All of these are all connected to what you experienced and try to figure out as a child. And instead, with that 2 to 3 seconds, you can make a choice. You can interrupt it and approach it as an adult. What does that look like? That looks like you having that fight. You can see that fight coming, right? You can feel that the bulls are starting to run. You can feel that you're starting to get heated. You can tell that your spouse is starting to get heated, and you stop and you breathe and you say, babe, I feel like we're about to fight again and I don't want to. What's really going on? What is this really about? Instead of taking that same tone and raising it to World War III, it's you walking into the meeting and asking for the raise that they've been promising for 3 years. And whether you get it or not, at least you have the conversation and you don't feel defensive. You don't feel heated, and you're fully present to make decisions that work best for you, instead of reacting in ways like, I quit, I hate you, you're the worst, whatever those things are. It's you walking in to present to the investors and not taking on the weight of the world and feeling like you're a constant failure in the moment, because you're not, because you have receipts. As long as a CVS receipt And yet, when you get triggered, you're no longer looking at the receipts. But when you're an adult, you remember. So here is what I'm here to tell you. The cost of your reactions don't go away. They only compound with time. You know this because you've been saying the same thing for years and years and years, and things have not gotten better. So what can you do? Well, why don't you spend 30 days with me? And I'm going to show you specifically and strategically how to interrupt, how to choose better, and how to change the trajectory of your life. It's not hard, but it does take you making the choice that the cost of the pain is worse than the cost of the change. Join me.